Priory of Sion members: Pierre Plantard, Leonardo da Vinci, Philip, Marquis de Chirizi, Isaac Newton. According to the dossier's secrets, the primary aim of the Priory of Sion is the protection and advancement of the descendants of the Merovingian dynasty, their ultimate objective being placing them on the throne of, or at least in positions of power and influence in, France. The president of the 1956 Priory of Sion was André Bonhomme. André Bonhomme was one of the 4 founding members of the Priory of Sion in Animus in 1956. Along with Pierre Plantard. He is tired of being harassed by inquiries about the nature of the association, and doesn't want any publicity. He refuses to be interviewed on TV or radio. He doesn't understand where people get the idea that the Priory was anything other than what it was, just a small club of friends. This was the statement he made to the BBC in 1996. The Priory of Sion doesn't exist anymore. We were never involved in any activities of a political nature. It was 4 friends who came together to have fun. We called ourselves the Priory of Sion because there was a mountain by the same name close by. I haven't seen Pierre Plantard in over 20 years and I don't know what he's up to, but he always had a great imagination. I don't know why people try to make such a big thing out of nothing. And to quote French researcher Jean-Luc Chaumel from his 1994 book The Table of Isis, Part 2. The Templars of the Apocalypse, The Message of a Sacred Enigma, Tales, Legends and Myths of Rennes-le-Château. Finally, the Priory of Sion was created in 1956. We were able to contact former members of this office, who all burst out laughing when we mentioned Rennes-le-Château. According to its former president, the association was at the time a club for Boy Scouts and nothing more. And from the BBC 2-time watch documentary The History of a Mystery, 1996. There's no evidence for a Priory of Sion until the 1950s. To find it, you go to the little town of St. Julien. Under French law, every new club or association must register itself with the authorities. And that's why there's a dossier here showing that a Priory of Sion filed the proper forms in 1956. According to a founding member, this eccentric association took its name not from Jerusalem, but from a nearby mountain, called Du Montana Sion Alt. 786 meters. The dossier also notes that the Priory's self-styled Grand Master Pierre Plantard, who is central to this story, has done time in Gaul. There was a secret order behind the Knights Templar, which created the Templars as its military and administrative arm. This order, which has functioned under a variety of names, is most frequently known as the Priory of Sion, Priory of Zion, Agent, Lee and Lincoln, the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. Agent, Lee and Lincoln uncovered evidence of a conspiracy surrounding the Order of Sion, sometimes referred to as the Order of Our Lady of Sion, which involved a number of families from Champagne. This, they claim, was behind the founding of the Templars. The prime mover in these events was Hugues, Count of Champagne, who was instrumental in founding the order and who eventually joined the Templars himself in 1125. Some historians believe that Hugues was related to Hugues de Payens. The records are sketchy, but he certainly was his feudal lord. Lynn Picnett and Clive Prince, Turin Shroud, in whose image the shocking truth unveiled. Certain writers have suggested that the Templars were infected with the Johannite or Mandean heresy, which denounced Jesus as a false prophet and acknowledged John, the Baptist, as the true Messiah. In the course of their activities in the Middle East, the Templars undoubtedly established contact with Johannite sects. Agent, Lee and Lincoln, the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. The Grand Pontiffs of this sect, the Johannites, took the title of Christ, and laid claim to an unbroken chain of succession in their office. At the time of the foundation of the Order of the Temple, AD 1118. The Grand Pontiff was named Stieglitz. He was acquainted with Hugo de Payens and initiated him into the mysteries and privileges of his church, promising him the sovereign priesthood and supreme government, finally designating him as his successor. Kenneth Mackenzie, The Royal Masonic Cyclopedia. At least 2 alleged Grand Masters of the Priory of Sion showed an involvement in Johannite-related activities. The allegation that Hugues de Payens was secretly a Johannite was repeated in the 19th century, first by the Vatican and later by the Theosophists. The Johannites ascribed to St. John the Baptist the foundation of their secret church, and the Grand Pontiffs of the sect assumed the title of Christos, anointed, or consecrated, and claimed to have succeeded one another from St. John by an uninterrupted succession of pontifical powers. He who, at the period of the foundation of the Order of the Temple, claimed these imaginary prerogatives, was named Stieglitz. He knew Hugues de Payens, he installed him into the mysteries and hopes of his pretended church, he seduced him by the notions of sovereign priesthood and supreme royalty, and finally designated him as his successor. Allocution of Pio IX against the Free Masons. The true version of the history of Jesus and the early Christianity was imparted to Hugues de Payens by the Grand Pontiff of the Order of the Temple of the Nazarene or Johannite sect, one named Stieglitz, after which it was learned by some knights in Palestine, from the higher and more intellectual members of the St. John sect, where were initiated into its mysteries. Freedom of intellectual thought and the restoration of one and universal religion was their secret object. Sworn to the vow of obedience, poverty, and chastity, they were at first the true knights of John the Baptist, crying in the wilderness and living on wild honey and locusts. Such is the tradition and the true Kabbalistic version. M.P. Blavatsky, Isis Unveiled. Henry.htmrc.htmrc.htm. Mysteries of Rennes le Chateau and the Priory of Sion. By Steve Misray. Here are the basic outlines of the mystery of Rennes le Chateau. It was clear that Berenger Saunier, the parish priest of this small village during the late 19th and early 20th century, had been receiving vast sums of money to refurbish the local church and also to build many structures in the area, such as his Tower of the Magdalene, Tour Magdala. Saunier died in 1917, leaving the secret of where he got his fabulous wealth to his housekeeper, Marie Dernaud, who promised to reveal it on her deathbed, but sadly she had a stroke, which left her paralyzed and unable to speak before her death in 1953. Speculation was rife on the source of the parish priest's money. Was it the lost treasure of the Templars or the Cathars in the area? Might it have been buried Visigothic gold? Or was he blackmailing the church with some terrible secret? The evidence that points to the last possibility is that Saunier's confession before his death was so shocking that the priest who heard it denied him absolution and last rites. The mystery is rendered greater by a series of parchments found by the cleric in 1891, which contained an easily discovered, but extraordinarily difficult to translate, cipher. They were apparently written by his predecessor, Abbé Montbigu, confessor to Marie Hautepl, in 1781. The same cipher appears on her tombstone. The parchments were, on the face of it, Latin transcriptions of passages from the Gospels. But they contain deeper mysteries. Saunier also appears to have left certain other clues in the highly unusual redesign of his church and of the other structures in the area. Hidden within those Latin parchments was a message in French. This treasure belongs to Dagobert II King and to Sion, and he is there, dead. Within the second parchment was an even stranger message. Shepherdess no temptation that Pucentineers hold the key p681. By the cross and this horse of God thy complete, could also trans. As destroy, this. Damon Guardian at midday blue apples. A third cipher that appears, not in the documents, but at Shugborough Hall's Shepherd Monument, is the curious DOUSVAVEM which has never been translated. There is a famous painting by Poussin entitled Les Bergers d'Arcadie, the Arcadian Shepherds, which shows them around a tomb containing the mysterious inscription Et in Arcadia ego. This tomb appears to be a virtual replica of one not too dissimilar to it right outside of Rennes-le-Château. 3 intrepid historians searched far and away for others to help decipher the puzzle. Suffice to say, Lincoln, Bagent, and Lee did a masterful job of unearthing the Merovingian monarch Dagobert and tied together many mysteries of history with a fantastic thesis that can be stated as thus: Jesus and Mary Magdalene, legitimate nobility. From the Judaic houses of Benjamin and David, married and sired heirs. Jesus did not die on the cross, but went either to England or India. The Magdalene's heirs married into the Visigoth families of the time and gave birth to the sacred Merovingian ruling family. The Visigoths of the area might have themselves been descended from the house of Benjamin, which had fled to the Arcadia region of Greece, and thence north into France, 1,000 years earlier. The Merovingians were not wiped out by the Carolingian usurpers, and their lineage survives in some of the other royal families of Europe. Apparently the goal of the secret society entitled the Priory of Sion is a Merovingian restoration in France. Apparently. For nothing is as it seems with the Wren mystery. But in the hands of Lee, Lincoln, and Bagent, it seems to encompass myriads of others: the dissolution of the Templars, the downfall of the Cathars, the bizarre Rosicrucian manifestos, and other political intrigues of French history. For it seems that Sion has a grievance against the Church, who betrayed the Merovingian dynasty and crowned its destroyers. If Saunier was an agent of Sion, it might explain why he was denied absolution. Village of Mystery. In Rebaudet, the Abbey of Rennes-les-Bains, which neighbors Rennes-le-Château, who wrote the true Celtic language in the Cromwell at Rennes-les-Bains, may have been the brains behind Saunier. Lincoln thinks his book may offer the key to the mystery. Baudet appears to argue in the book the silly thesis that the Celts spoke Anglo-Saxon, and that it, English, in effect, was the language which was spoken by Noah's sons before the Tower of Babel. But David Wood and Henry Lincoln conclude that the book may be averring something else, that perhaps there was a universal language before the deluge, number, or measure, and that the key to the Cromwell of Rennes-les-Bains might be the Old English mile. Lincoln believes that meteorology may play an important part in the Rennes-le-Château mystery. In any case, other authors have noted that Baudet died under strange circumstances, and that his book may have been sought out and destroyed by the Bishop de Beausejour. Baudet, a linguistic scholar, would have been a logical choice for Saunier to approach with his curious Latin parchments. There are a few grisly murders that have taken place in the area to add to the air of mystery. One was that of the old priest Jean-Antoine Maurice Gilles. Toward the end of his life he became a paranoid hermit and reckless. The only person he would admit to his presbytery was his niece, to bring him food. Despite his absurd precautions, someone surprised him on All Saints' Eve in 1897, bashed him with some fire tongs, delivered 4 blows from an axe, and then reverently laid the corpse on the ground with the hands crossed over the chest. Whoever it was ransacked the room, but took no money. A team of researchers found 3 corpses in Sion near